Hey, are you a social worker looking to gain more income in a short amount of time? Join us today when we go through the 5 steps of what it requires to become a compliance consultant, how to become the expert, and how to land your first client. Join us along every single week because we're always going through the unorthodox hustles that most social workers don't know about. For the best weekly content on new social work side hustles and how you can gain more money, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below and click the little bell in there, right? Because that's going to let you know when a new video and a new hustle drops. So what qualifies me to start talking about side hustles and additional income? My name is Tiffany Tate. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, certified daring way facilitator, private equity investor, and business strategist. To begin with, myself and my business partner, Dr. Lillian Rodriguez, who's a psychologist, we built a multi-million-dollar portfolio within 5 years with zero startup capital, with straight small-scale side hustles, and then flipping those into larger distribution and equity deals. We'll talk more about that another time, but our side hustles allowed us to build a very large portfolio. And last year, as a result, I was able to retire as a healthcare executive, as a CEO, at the age of 35 and really focus on my family and my priorities as a result of these small scale side hustles that turned into a $1 million portfolio. So I say to you guys, we're ready to do this. Jump on in if you're ready to learn how to get this side hustle money. So step 1, what is compliance? Compliance is simply the set of rules that we're given to live by as agencies and as social workers and practicing practitioners, right? So this can be the Joint Commission, this can be Department of Human Services, whatever your licensing board for an agency is or the accrediting board for that agency would fall into regulatory compliance. There's also payer regulatory compliance as it relates to insurance. We are not discussing payer regulatory compliance. That's another episode and a larger one. What we're talking today is about compliance regulation and how that relates to a social worker's role in building and keeping an organization within the regulatory guidelines presented. Many organizations that we work for as social workers will have to, what me and Lily call, answer to a lot of masters in a certain way. You may have Joint Commission, you may also have CARF, you may have Medicaid that has operational compliance, you have the zoning, which we'll talk about in another issue. We have the licensing. So there's a lot that goes into compliance that most people are not aware of. And a lot of times a social worker is the perfect person for that sort of consulting job. Step number 2, choose. You have to choose which regulatory board you're interested in becoming the expert in, because that's what a consultant is, an expert, right? And don't worry, by the end of this video, you'll figure out how to be the expert too. You're going to look into what kind of regulations you may be interested in. Don't overthink this because nobody really thinks that they're usually interested in regulation. And if you've never dealt with regulation before, that's okay. Think about your current job or a past job you've had as a social worker and who did they answer to? If you don't know, think about all the weird people that would walk around with suits and ties and notepads and audit you every year. Where were they from, right? Were they coming from Joint Commission? Were they coming from the state licensing board? So you have an idea of what sort of regulations are surrounding your particular subcategory of social work. And if that doesn't even ring a bell for you, Google it. Google, if I were working in foster care in the state of Florida, what is the regulatory board that would do the licensing? If you're a person who's in private practice and you're in the state of North Carolina, Google regulatory board for private practice. The goal here is to simply get down to what you're interested in and what you can conceptualize in terms of regulation. And if you've already been working in an industry or a field, particularly foster care, in-home care, elderly care, substance abuse, that language may make more sense to you. And so that's usually a good place to start in terms of regulatory compliance research. Comment below and tell us what your expertise is. Don't overthink it. What are your natural gifts and what are you really good at? Let us know. I'm good at business. Lily's good at people. That's the truth. You guys let us know what you're up for. Step 3, research. Once you determine what sort of regulatory board you're interested in learning more about, now's the time to really figure out, is it worth it, right? And is this something I could really do long term? And is it financially worth my time? Usually it is, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. But go ahead and just go into Google, right? And ask for whatever regulatory board it might be. So for me, maybe I say Joint Commission Consultant, and you're gonna look up your state. See who comes up. Look at the different websites. What services do they offer? How much are they charging? What do their packages look like? Compare these. We're doing market research here essentially. Compare these between the different offerings of that particular kind of consultant and see what those reimbursements look like and the time frame turnarounds. You can get a really good picture of how to structure your service offering and whether or not it's worth it financially for you before even trying to figure out all the regulations and how to do it. So before you dig into the regulations, which we'll get to, make sure you're doing the research to determine market-wise, is this worth it, right? As a comparison, our consultants within Paradigm Behavioral Health, which is a separate business that Lily and I have had for years, which is our consulting firm, our consultants within that behavioral healthcare firm can make anywhere from $25 an hour to $175 an hour. And we have a full service consulting firm doing compliance, licensing, clinical auditing, payer negotiations, so on and so forth. But depending on the different specialty, regulatory compliance being one of the higher paid specialties, it tends to be worth it to really look into this a little bit. Step 4, get it done. That's really what it comes down to. You've done the research. You know whether or not this is worth it for you. If the money is in it, it's going to work. Can I conceptualize what this job looks like? And if the answer is yes, we're going dead into step 4 and we are getting it done. Go online and pull the regs. More often than not, the regulations are somewhere floating on the internet. You just have to be savvy sometimes on how to find those. But you can literally Google CMS guidelines if it's public health that you're or publicly funded insurance that you're trying to be a consultant for, or Joint Commission standards. That's not necessarily all a free one, right? You have to determine based on how much money this can potentially bring you, pulling what regs are going to be worth it. Most of them are free though. Go online and Google it. Even if you don't get the regs in hand and you just want more market research, Facebook groups are a really good way for social workers to ask questions, get feedbacks, and get appropriate training. So go on these Facebook groups, right? Ask your colleagues and peers. Has anyone ever done compliance for an agency? Straight up and down. I promise you're going to get a lot of responses and people willing to, number one, point you in the right direction, help you with market research. Our field is really special in that way that we're usually willing to give, right? And share such information. Take advantage of that and learn from one another. Do the research, but get it done. Step 5, getting paid, right? At the end of the day, we all got a heart and this is a labor of love, but we got to build that generational wealth. So how do we get paid? Dr. Lily will argue with me every day. This is not the way. I'm telling y'all, you could try this. For those who work, you let us know, right? You'll let us know in the comments if this worked. Pick a nonprofit. Pick somebody who doesn't have necessarily the funds, but necessarily they do have the problem that you're trying to solve, and give it away for free. Do your first package for free where somebody is not paying you anything so that the expectations on their behalf is not high. You are gaining practice, and the result is they now should give you reviews, referrals, and marketing help in that way, right? Giving you recommendations, whether it's you can use them on your new website, or use them as a referral for additional business. The easiest way to get in front of an organization and get organizational contracts is to get your first one. What easier way to get your first one than just offering the service to somebody who may not be able to afford it or not be able to prioritize that as an affordable option, right? Nonprofits will often fall into that category and may be willing to work with you in terms of providing support and direction for growth and referrals and reviews, right? If you absolutely refuse to work for free, like Dr. Lily does, then consider doing a 25% reduction compared to what we see in the industry. So if you realize that the going rate for a consultant within Medicaid is currently $70, which is about average right about now, right? Which is a little lower than you can get in private insurance, but that's a story for another day. Let's say it's about $70 an hour for a consultant. You could say I'm charging like $50 an hour, $60 an hour, right? Taking a significant cut off the top. However, being able to get more clients to come to you because you're already competitive, and then utilizing that to grow. Another really good way that people often overlook is agencies tend to be licensed somewhere, and there tends to be a database somewhere. Send mailers. Really that simple. Print the list of all the agencies that are within your area that have this sort of license or regulatory board, and send them a letter. Send them a mailer that shows this is what you do, this is what you can provide, and they should reach out to you for additional information. Again, the mailer should be after you take the first client and lock that in so that there is a review and a referral. So now you know the 5 steps to getting to be an expert in being a compliance consultant, as well as you being able to get paid to be an expert as a compliance consultant. If you guys need any more help, please comment below, ask me questions. If you're looking for one-on-one help, you can look into our coaching services. The link is also in the description. But either way, I got all the best hustle tips. Hit subscribe below and keep following along with us as we go through how to make this money and build this generational wealth. Y'all have a wonderful week.